Once, this was Trump country, the beating heart of the America First revolution. From the car plants of Michigan to the soy fields of Iowa, the Midwest believed Donald Trump when he promised to bring their jobs back, drain the swamp, and rebuild the industrial backbone of America. But now, something's shifted. New polling paints a picture of quiet rebellion, a region that once cheered for Trump's tough talk, now watching with folded arms and fading faith. In a recent Tip Insights poll, Trump's favorability in the Midwest slipped to 40% favorable and 49% unfavorable, his weakest regional rating in years. That may sound like just another number, but for a politician who built his identity on being the voice of the forgotten factory worker, that 9-point gap cuts deep. The Midwest isn't just another region, it's where Trump's populism was born. Forged in shuttered plants, empty main streets, and the anger of workers who watched globalization strip their livelihoods away. In 2016 and 2020, that message hit home. Now, 8 years later, those same voters are wondering, did anything really change? Back then, Trump vowed to make Michigan the car capital of the world again. He promised Wisconsin that new steel and aluminum tariffs would bring factories roaring back to life. But talk to workers in Racine or Toledo today, and you'll hear a different story. Factories didn't reopen, some just moved again, this time to Mexico or Southeast Asia, and the tariffs meant to protect American industry. They've turned into attacks on the very people Trump claimed to defend. Farmers now pay more for fertilizer, manufacturers pay more for imported parts, and consumers pay more for nearly everything. Economists at Penn Wharton say Trump's tariff policy could slash GDP by 6% and cut wages by 5% long-term, a devastating blow to working-class families already stretched thin. The White House calls it strategic protectionism. The Midwest calls it something else, a betrayal wrapped in a slogan. When Trump launched his new round of tariffs, 25% on imports from Canada and Mexico, 10% on goods from China, and a baseline 10% tariff on nearly everything else, he said it was about national security. But for soybean farmers in Illinois and Iowa, it felt more like economic suicide. Exports to China, once America's largest agricultural buyer, have collapsed to a 20-year low.
The Trump administration admits farmers are not doing well under President Trump's tariffs, most especially soybean farmers. The, quote, collateral damage, as Politico puts it, in the president's trade war with China. Since May, China has not purchased a single U.S. soybean, not a one, according to the American Soybean Association, turning instead to Brazil and Argentina.
Warehouses are filling with unsold grain, and while Brazil happily steps in to supply Beijing's demand, U.S. farmers are left holding the bag and the bills. Virginia Houston of the American Soybean Association said it best, "With these tariffs in place, we're not competitive, China's not buying, and we're running out of places to sell." Trump insists the tariffs will pay off in the long run, but when that long run means losing your family farm today, the promise rings hollow. He flipped Michigan and Wisconsin back into his column, crowing that he'd won the Rust Belt again. His choice of Ohio Senator J.D. Vance as running mate was no accident, a message that he still owned the heartland, but the mood in 2025 feels different. Pollsters describe the Midwest as disillusioned, tired, and ready to look elsewhere. A union leader in Cleveland put it bluntly, "We gave Trump a chance to prove he could deliver. Instead, he delivered chaos." Democrats smell opportunity, but even they know this isn't about party loyalty anymore. It's about trust, and who actually understands what life feels like when your town's only factory is gone, and your kids have to move 3 states away to find work. For many Midwesterners, Trump's latest fight isn't over steel or soybeans, it's over wind. In Iowa, nearly 2/3 of all electricity comes from wind power. Those spinning turbines aren't just scenery, they're income. They pay over $90 million a year in land leases to farmers and fund more than half the property taxes in some rural counties. But when Trump's administration scrapped federal renewable energy incentives under his One Big Beautiful Bill, that economic engine sputtered. Wind companies froze projects. Local jobs vanished. Even TPI Composites, one of Iowa's largest wind manufacturers, shut down, blaming industry-wide pressures and the loss of federal support. Fort Madison Mayor Matt Morfeld didn't mince words. "This is a crucial mistake. You can't say you support farmers and then take away what's keeping their land profitable." The irony? Trump's energy team calls wind and solar mature industries, but the workers who depended on them say the cuts feel more like punishment for daring to believe in a cleaner, more independent future. The numbers tell the story. Commodity prices are falling. cattle herds are shrinking, ethanol plants are slowing down, farm debt is climbing toward record highs, and even with Trump's $60 billion in farm subsidies, critics say the money flows mostly to big agribusiness, not family farms. The result? The same small-town communities that once saw Trump as their savior now see him as part of the problem. Farmers don't need bailouts, one Iowa grain cooperative manager said. We need markets. Trump still fills stadiums. The chants of USA and build the wall haven't disappeared. But the tone has changed. You can feel it in places like Milwaukee and Davenport. The hesitation, the weariness. People aren't sure if the man who claimed to fight for them is still fighting with them or against them. Even among loyal supporters, there's quiet frustration. They remember the campaign promises, the booming factories, the cheap energy, the American jobs. What they see now is a trade war with allies, a bruised farm economy, and a growing sense that Trump's America first might just mean Midwest last. The Midwest has always been America's political bellwether, the land of moderation, where elections are won or lost by a few thousand votes in a handful of counties. Now that balance is shifting. Political analysts say this moment could redefine 2028. If Trump can't win back the trust of the region that made him president, his movement could fracture from within, and the consequences wouldn't stop at politics. They'd ripple across every corner of the economy, from agriculture to energy to global trade. The story of the Midwest is the story of America, hardworking, hopeful, and too often left behind by leaders who promise everything and deliver little. Trump rode that pain to the White House. He turned resentment into a rallying cry. But now, those same towns are asking a question he can't easily answer. What happens when the champion of the forgotten becomes the reason they were forgotten again? The Midwest hasn't just turned on Trump. It's waking up and realizing that loyalty without results isn't patriotism, it's surrender. If you found this breakdown useful, hit like, subscribe, and hit the bell.